everyone, and welcome to Wednesday's Talking Reds. I am Mo Stewart. This is Rob Gutmann. As you can tell, neither of us knew what the weather would be like, so I brought my sunglasses and he's got a body warmer on.
But neither hot nor cold.
No, but that's Liverpool in winter time, though, really, isn't it? To be honest with you,
it's sunny. It's having pissed down all morning. Is the technical weather term. It's actually glary now. So if you see us squinting at the camera, there's a glare behind.
Yes, there is. I mean, we are down here.
Nice one, Ash.
Yeah, we didn't choose this spot, but it is a beautiful spot, and Liverpool are also in a beautiful spot. You see that segue? Seamless. We've got out of the international break unscathed. We're getting ready to a rather big game against Manchester United, where we're hoping to break a rather nice record of 18 consecutive Premier League wins. And we're playing against a team who are probably at their lowest ebb for quite some time. So that's all nice, isn't it?
Yeah, the scene is set, isn't it? The stage is set. We're in fate-tempting territory, but I've rarely felt so confident. In fact, never felt so confident going in. I was quietly confident going into that one under Brendan, where we did them 3-0. They were very poor that year under Moyes, and we were very strong. But they hadn't been sustained poor the way they have now. They're a proper mid-tabled, no-mark outfit now. And so you feel the difference between winning and not winning is mental. Yeah,
and I remember that 2014 game, because there was a lot of talk, because it was Moyes as well. It was the fact that they were just going to spawn a win against us without any kind of deservedness. But we went out there and we proved that we can go out there and win on that ground. That was 5 years ago. At that point, it had been 5 years since the last one. So we're definitely due another victory at Old Trafford.
On the 5 years.
On the 5 years. I mean, I'd like it a little bit more frequently than that, lads, if you're all listening. But we'll take every 5 years. And today's show is kind of framed, if I was going to give a title, it would be called A Tale of Two Keepers. I feel like that's probably not SEO sexy enough to be the title, but that's really where we want to start, because our keeper, Alisson, looks like he's back.
Tale of two keepers.
Two keepers in fair Manchester. And Manchester United's keeper, David De Gea, he looks like he did something very similar to what Alisson did on the opening day of the season. He took a goal kick, he clutched his thigh, he sat on the ground, and he was removed from the game. Now, we've not had any official word on whether or not he's going to be out. But, I mean, yes, we know that Manchester United aren't the Manchester United of old, and David De Gea is not the David De Gea of old.
Yeah.
But again, talking about history, we remember the amount of times that he's turned into go-go gadget arms and he's pulled out a worldie against us. We won't have to deal with that on Sunday.
I mean, I've not watched him this season, but the reports are he continues to be part of the problem. So it's not the treat, if I can say that. An injury to an opposition player, we couldn't condone that at all. But if we did, it wouldn't be quite the benefit it has been in the past. Having said that, the more stripped they are, even weakened, the better. But there's talk of a wide range of injuries and maybe recoveries from injuries. This morning, breaking, Martial expecting to play. Pogba, there's been conflicting reports about. What are you hearing?
Last I heard was that he wasn't going to play, but I would suspect that they will try to move heaven and earth to make him available for playing, because he does change the way they play massively.
Yeah.
He really does. Regarding De Gea, he did actually make a really good save in that Sweden game before. If you watch that Sweden game, I actually feel gutted for Sweden. They were winning with like 2 minutes of injury time to go, and then they
last minute.
Yeah, it was awful. But yes, De Gea, he made some decent saves. But you've got to remember, Man United have arguably the best backup goalkeeper in the league, in Sergio Romero.
Yeah.
He should be a number one. Makes me wonder why he hasn't tried to go out and be a number one, because he's good enough to do it. But he is an able deputy, so it's not likely they're going to have me in goal.
No. I was just thinking for a minute what that would look like.
Yeah, let's not dwell on that.
You know, it's not really, whether De Gea makes it or not, it's not really about Man United, it's about Liverpool. We're much, much better in every single position. But they've got a reasonable defence at the moment, despite all their problems. Probably their best defence in a few years, on paper at any rate, with Maguire, Bissaka. We'll have Lindelof maybe back. They won't have Shaw back.
No.
And when De Gea plays. It's a better back five than they've had for a while. I can't see them doing anything other than what they chose to do in, when was it, March, April, when we last played them, and park the bus even on their own turf and hope for something on the counter with Rashford, and now possibly Martial as well. But it shouldn't be about that person.
No, I agree. I think this is the first time, probably since that 2014 game, where we go to Old Trafford and the onus is on us to decide the game. How we play will be the biggest factor in what the result is. And let's bring it back to us then. So obviously, Alisson's back.
Yeah.
This is great news. There's been talk that obviously with the fact that Adrian's playing so well, we haven't needed to rush him back, but this feels like the perfect moment to bring him back, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Really?
I'll be honest, I'd rather bring him back at home to Norwich. Well, not Norwich, that's where he did his...
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather bring him back in a game where he can ease his way in. I'm not saying United are going to keep him busy, but there's a chance they can keep us a bit busier than most of this league.
They've literally failed to score in their last 3 games.
True enough. I see. Oh, true enough. I suppose I wouldn't want him to be. I don't know. Yeah. Of course, you're saying he's not going to be stretched against Man United.
I'm saying he's not going to be stretched. I'm saying that in terms of us going there with that renewed level of confidence, knowing that we are the European champions, we're looking more like European champions with him in goal. I feel like bringing us up and putting them down is definitely going to help having Alisson around. And yeah, I mean, we know that Manchester United have players who can play well in attack. We haven't seen it for a while. So we don't know how many shots they're going to be raining down at this time. To be honest,
what we don't know is because we're not used to having keepers out and then come back after. And it's been a reasonable stretch. We don't know what rusty looks like in a keeper quite. We know if it was like Oxlade-Chamberlain, we go, well, okay, they're going to give him a game, they'll ease him in, they'll take him off after 55, 60. If he's not, he might play on adrenaline. But a keeper's a very exposed position, and there's a part of me that has a nagging doubt here.
Well,
maybe I'm being paranoid.
You might be being paranoid. I don't know whether or not United are going to be trying to use someone like Daniel James to run him down or what have you. We'll have to wait and see. But one thing we can find out about Manchester United is some of the underlying stats of exactly why they've been so bad. Neil, our regular stats genius, has been looking at the whole of the top 6 and how they stack up compared to the mighty Reds.
I want to talk about Manchester United because it's a laugh, and this is Manchester United's expected goals. I'm using this as a little bit of the shot map for Man United in this last little international break run from the 14th of September until the 11th of October. And I'm using this as an interesting thing to talk about at times, the limitations of expected goals. And within this, you know, there's 2 goals they've scored, one's a penalty and one's open play. So they've effectively been expected to score circa 4 goals, they've only scored 2, but it's from 47 shots. And I was looking at this thinking, good God, that's a lot of shots. You know, one of those goes in from distance, the McTominay effort against Arsenal. The point is, when I showed you the Manchester City shot map conceded before, there was a lot of stuff between the penalty spot, the edge of the 6-yard box and moving closer into the goal. United there, yes, the expected goals is 3.24, but there's not actually much in the way of God, he should be scoring that when you look at that shot map. There's not that many absolute stinkers within there. There's not that many misses. So it is a little bit of hard luck from a United point of view in this run of games. But what are they actually creating? There's a lot of pot shots from outside the area. And when you've been watching Man United, you've felt the blunt. So you can have the ball. And, you know, when I spoke to Anne Shaw on one of our audio shows, he said he felt as though that, you know, in the first 2/3 of the pitch, United are a top 6 side. But in the final third, they're a relegation side. And this sort of bears that out. They get around the penalty area and there's a hell of a lot of pot shots. So if you look at United's attacking radar from this run of games, it's really, really fascinating. You go right the way into the XG per shot. So the non-penalty XG in total is 0.81. It's not great, it's not absolutely dreadful, but the XG per shot is 0.07. It says that there's a lot of shots being had by this United side, and there's a lot of speculative efforts. There's not much they're doing in front of goal that's screaming it should be going into the back of the net. And you can see that right the way through. They're doing all right with set-piece XG. They're counter-attacking quite nicely. The goalkeeper's looking to play out from the back, but they're not creating clear shots. They're not getting shots from high-pressing scenarios, and the quality of effort they're having on goal is really, really poor.
Thanks to Neil, as ever, there. If you want to hear a full version of that stats show, then check out our subscription service. It's all on there. So, we're still talking about Liverpool going to Manchester United, and we're still talking about how long it's been since we've gone there and put down a real statement performance. Now, as much as we all love Jurgen Klopp, I think that's fair to say, Old Trafford and a performance at Old Trafford is probably the last thing left on his list of to-do, apart from win the Premier League title, of course. So, I mean, he's had, what, three or four attempts now? We haven't really shone out there, so...
Feels like the two things are inextricably linked, doesn't it? Had we put on a showpiece performance last time we were there, we'd have won the league.
Well, exactly.
So it's yeah. Look, we're more than capable of doing so. I don't think there's a mental hex over Liverpool. United, although they are in disarray, I mean, when we played them last season, they're on the back of that fairly significant run that Solskjaer takes them on, where they win 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
We played them, so we sort of met them at the wrong time. I think, if anything, they caught us unawares last time out, because we expected them to be emboldened by their run, and there was talk before the game that they would put on a show, and Alex Ferguson was watching, and there was even talk about him being in the dressing room to give an additional motivational speech, so they were going to have a real up and at 'em, and they just parked the bus on their own ground, and I think that caught us out. I think we were ready to play a very different type of game. They may come at us this time, but either way this time I think we'll be ready.
Two other things that happened in that game. One, Firmino came off, and if you think about...
They had injuries galore.
Yeah, they had injuries as well, obviously. But if you think about where we are now, if God forbid something similar happened, Firmino has to go off inside half an hour. Probably, well, obviously it's not going to be Sturridge replacing him. We've got Origi, who's more likely to come on, a little bit more dynamic. But I just feel like in general, Neil made a point on one of the shows we did last week that Klopp has showed them too much respect in the past.
He said that, yeah.
And I 100% agreed with that. I feel like this is the time for us to go out there and say, you know what, we know we're better than you. We know this is meant to be a big game, but we're treating it as just any other game and we're going to run over you. I personally would like to see some of that reflected in the starting lineup. I suspect I'm probably going to be disappointed on that score. What are your feelings?
Yeah, I always like to see a Klopp side or any Liverpool side with 4 attacking players. Although it now has become the default, we play the Champions League final team. He's always trying to get back to that team. And actually, I think it's the strongest possibility that we see literally that side for the first time this season, because Alisson would complete the line. By the Champions, the thing that defines that team in certain senses is the midfield. The very, you could be disparaging, say, workmanlike, but I'd say the running midfield of Henderson, Wijnaldum and Fabinho. And I think that will take the field because they'll expect United to be at the very least competitive on their own ground. But you could say that even that mindset is showing that tad little bit too much respect. If he doesn't do that, the variation is sort of caught because Chamberlain's clearly not 100% match fit. So do you pitch him into Old Trafford from the start? Naby Keita, I think if he'd had a couple of games under his belt, Naby Keita would be the natural one. Depends what he's done at Melwood. The one thing that's interesting is they'll have been at Melwood now for 2 weeks, a good core of players. I think about 7 of them who they wouldn't all start, but there's 7 who have started games in the last year. And I think any one, and I'm talking about the likes of Keita, even a mad one like Lallana or James Milner, who started so well. Any one of those could have trained their way into a surprise contention. And the fact that Wijnaldum and Henderson have played back-to-back games.
They've both played 2 games as well.
That may be a factor, although this international break, the games seem to be facilitating a longer break because we play United on Sunday. Last game for a Liverpool international would have been Monday. So it's a 6-day break. So all factors.
Yeah, Klopp can definitely use that in his favour if he's desperate to put that team out. But I'm like you, I'd like to think of the idea of maybe someone sneaking their way in. Now, obviously, in something that happened in the last Premier League game was a slight injury to Mo Salah. We haven't had an official word that he is back fit. He is back training. According to Dave Lynch, he's still not training with the full team. So there's still the possibility.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's still the possibility he might end up on the bench. Now, I don't want to go into the whole Salah and how he's playing over the course of the season because we've seen stats that say he's actually started this season better than he had either the previous 2, despite what the optics tell you. But I want to talk about Salah against Manchester United. I feel like every one of our big attacking players has a signature game at Old Trafford. Torres had one, Suarez had one, Gerrard had plenty. Salah hasn't had one yet.
Has Mane though?
No, Mane hasn't had one
Bobby
yet.
Firmino.
Mane did at least score in the game again at Anfield, didn't he?
In the form he did in 3-1?
Yes. Yeah, he got the first goal, didn't he? Off his chest.
Yes, he did.
Nice little goal. So yeah, he's got a goal. But of the kind that I'm thinking of...
an iconic performance. I know what you mean, an iconic winning goal. Look, these things are rare. You know...
I mean, we said 5 years.
You know, We say Torres says the game, doesn't he? He has the game.
He does like, I mean, at Old
Suarez.
Trafford, there was the year after where he got a couple, but we still drew, I think.
Oh God, that's lost from my mind. My memory back. You're right in a sense, although maybe it's unfair if Mo's going to be nursing a bit of an whether he protects his ankle. I don't know. They may even hold him back if he does it. I'm surprised he hasn't trained. We're on Wednesday morning recording this. But as he doesn't train by tomorrow, he's going to be more than a doubt.
I mean, he may well train today. This was a tweet from Dave Lynch that was out yesterday, I believe. If you're watching Dave, you can correct me. But so
he's with us later for a show, actually, so that'll be interesting.
Oh, okay, I'll ask him then. So, so by now he may well have trained. There is still the chance, though, that he might be held back.
Salah coming off the bench would be a very interesting proposition. Origi, Firmino, Mane, I wouldn't fear us going to Old Trafford with that. It might encourage Klopp to put that extra attacking midfielder in as well, just to create a bit more threat, but we'll see.
There you go, we will have to see. See, these are all of the things that we've been debating. We'll still be debating between now and Sunday, but I think most of us sitting here right now will tell you we're in a good place. We just need to go out there and put the performance in. Rob, it's been wonderful, as always.
It sure has, brother.
We'll see you next week.